Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of my Laravel chatbot series utilising Laravel Livewire. So in the last episode we got the ability in place to swap chats and then show the chat's messages that you click on. And this episode I'm keeping it short and simple by just getting the ability to send a message and then show the latest message as the logged in user. So let's kickstart that. We're going to be using forms, so standard HTML form tags, but it's going to also be linking into the Livewire component. So the first thing we want to do is copy this from the Livewire documentation, and we're going to wrap it around this, and we're going to say send message slash form, and we want to change our button type to submit. We've got wire model on our text area, and then we need to create the message variable. So public message variable to have the message input value. So what this is going to do, because we've got wire model equals message, it's going to bind the value of this text area to the message variable on the back end, or component as such. So anytime you type a new value in the text area, this message variable will be equal to that value. So what we then need to do is create the send message function for sending a message. And we're going to DD out this message just to show you that the message value is updating. So if we give that a refresh and type test, we get test. Perfect. So we want to create a new chat, essentially, or message in part of that chat. So we need to know the active chat, which we've already got because we've got the active chat variable. So if we just DD out this active chat and then do the same again, we've got the active chat, which is ID1, test group chat. Then if we do test chat person, we get ID2. And then we want to create chat messages for that chat. So the way we can do that is if we just go to the Laravel documentation on relationships and go down to many relationships, we can use attaching and detaching, because what we created was a many to many relationship with chat messages. So if we get a chat model, just to double check that is right, we did it through has many. That's annoying. That makes sense. Yeah, that's annoying. I thought we did it through many to many, but with the has many, what we could do is we can save many, which we're not going to do. All we're really going to do is the create. So this one here. So what we can do on our component is we've got the active chat. We can do this active chat messages create, not pi, message this message. And let's just double check there's no other columns. No, that's perfect. And we also want to populate the user ID with auth user ID. So let's just double check that's working. So if we send that message to fillable property, right? So what this issue is here, or this error, is we haven't added the fillable property onto our chat message model. So if we go into our chat message, there's no fillable. So if we do public fillable, or is it private? Private fillable. Nope. Protected fillable. I'm really forgetting today. And then we do message, user ID, and chat ID. So what this will allow us to do is mass assign values to these three columns through create or update methods and pass in an array. So if we then now try again, it will have submitted. So if we refresh, we've got test created today, the 15th. Oh, it's 1:53, but yeah. Chat ID 2, user ID 1, the message is test. So that worked. So then if we then refresh this page and go back to that chat, we've got that test message that we've just sent. But it didn't A, refresh the chat messages, B, it didn't clear the chat value, the message value, and that is all it didn't do. Didn't do. Yeah, I'm having a nightmare today. So what we want to do is create the message, which we've done, clear the message value. So we do this message, so we'll clear the message value, and then we want to refresh the messages as such. So what we can do, and let's just move that along. This active chat messages. I think you can do this. Let's just try it. It might not work. So we'll do test group chat. Test. Refresh does not exist. Okay, that's fine. So public active chat messages. Or would it be? Let me just double check this don't work. Ah, there we go. Perfect. I knew one of the refresh methods worked on one of the models. So it looks like it's not relationships. Refresh the main active chat model. So as you can tell, not searching Bing. If we type again, test 44, it refreshes straight away, real time. And that's because we're refreshing the active chat model, which will essentially, this active chat will be a new instance of the active chat. So in this case, test group chat, and it will then have the updated messages collection, which will contain the latest messages. So if we try it on the test chat person, we've got test 4. And that is working pretty much perfectly how we want it to work, really. As opposed to expand on this, if we're logged in as the other user, they wouldn't see the latest messages. So if we could quickly get that in now, actually, it's quite simple. So to do that, we'll need to use something called polling. And to show you that, it is polling. So it's kind of like background refreshing as such to an element. So we can do wire poll, we can change the timing of the refresh, and we can also state a function that it should run. Visible, keep live. So what we want to do is we want to use this one. So if we go to our chat box, for each chat says chat, technically we want to do it on the whole section, because we eventually are going to have the latest message under here, and in a group chat it might show the person who sent that message as well, or the name. And obviously if an update, if I send a message and the other user's logged in, we want them to have this refresh with the latest message, but also the chat itself if they're on the chat. So let's add our wire poll to the main section. Let's get rid of those. Let's get rid of those OCD. So refresh messages, I would call it, the function. So it's going to refresh, I think by default it's every second or every 5 seconds. It's one or the other. And then it's going to run this function on our component. So what we then need to do is create that function to refresh the messages. And we're going to refresh the main active chat model. That will keep this active chat up to date. but we also want to refresh the chats. So we will keep updating the chats. Get the latest chats for the user. And then if we refresh and if we inspect as well, what we will see, or should see, is every second or 5 seconds it's going to fire back an AJAX request is a way to think of it, back to that backend component code, and it's going to run the refresh messages function. So what I should probably do for the next episode is set up another user account, so then I can show you side by side this actually in place and working. But what we've achieved in this episode is we can send a message, it will refresh for the logged in user, it will also refresh the latest message here when that is in place, which we can do next episode, and for the other user that is logged in or not logged in, well, logged in really, because then it'll be refreshing, but if they're on the chat, their chat's going to refresh every second and it's going to get the latest messages. As well as that, it's going to get the latest chats on the left hand side, and it will mean that it's looping through these chats every second and outputting the latest message when we do get around to doing that. So I would say that's been quite productive. Obviously it will be easier to visualize and see it working when I get another account set up and do side by side logging in and messaging as such. But I think next episode, as mentioned, we will get the latest message showing here, and we'll start looking at how we're going to get this red notification, A, updating with how many messages haven't been read, and B, hiding it when all the messages have been read. That's probably going to include adding another flag on the messages potentially, so read and unread, and when the user's clicked on the chat, we can assume that all their messages are then read, as if you was going on a messenger chat, a WhatsApp chat, that sort of thing. And once they're all read, we can then hide this notification prompt as such. And then that will give us quite a good foundation for a chat messaging system. Obviously there's lots more to do, the deletion of chats, and that would be on a user basis, because a user could delete their chat but another user might not delete their chat. So we need to have a look at how we're going to do that, because we've only got one chat record. It's not like we're duplicating them for different users. So all we will need to do is delete the record in the chat_user table for the chat ID and the user ID, linking that user to the chat. But then we also need to consider what happens if a user deletes a chat but the other user then replies. We then want that chat to reappear or reassign the other user to the chat so it appears in the left hand side again. So these are all things that we can expand on in little mini episodes, but for now I think this is a good base in terms of styling. I mean, I'm not a front-end developer, but it does need styling and making looking better. But at the end of the day, this is back-end foundations to give you a Livewire chat system that you can then take away. And then later down the line, we can use something like Pusher to use WebSockets and show to the other user when one user's typing and vice versa. But yeah, thank you for watching this quick episode. Hope you enjoyed, and leave a like and subscribe. It really does mean a lot to me, because then it means that you're liking these tutorials and you want me to continue doing them. And yeah, slowly but surely the quality of these videos will get a lot better. Yeah, I hope you learned something from this video, and goodbye.